Hey guys, this is Dr. Isreb again with Integrative Kidney Solutions, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the emerging field of genetics and epigenetics and the risk of kidney disease. Now, a lot has been written about this, and I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible in this short video. So be patient with me, and let's start with a little bit of discussion about and refresher about genetic in generals. As you remember from your science class at school, DNA is a long and windy spiral made of a million of nucleotides. There are actually 4 nucleotide bases: adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. And the sequence of these nucleotides on the DNA determine how our genetic traits are expressed. It's like a Morse code, actually. The different nucleotide sequences or codes form about 2,000 genes. Our cells read these genetic codes and use them to make thousands of proteins that are essential for carrying out our biological function that maintains our life. So alteration in these sequences, like single nucleotide polymorphisms, or what we call them SNPs, or error in the code, affect the efficiency of the protein production process. These changes can be severe enough and lead to a disease, or mild to moderate, causing an increase in the risk of a disease. On occasion, though, these changes can have no effect on the risk of disease and may even be protective against the disease. Now, let's talk a little bit about the old view of genetics and the risk of disease. For decades, scientists assumed that if we were able to interpret the DNA sequence, we would be able to crack the code and unlock the potential to identify and repair the broken code. And this way, we can prevent or reverse diseases, actually. In fact, many scientists are still working on that to this day. This is an exciting prospect, and maybe the future will bring us some more findings from this research. And actually, a lot of Hollywood love this story, and they love to make movies about this. But it turns out there is actually another way. So in early 2000s, researchers start noticing that people who have so-called bad genes are not really expressing these genes the way that we have predicted. So a new theory began to shift the paradigm in genetics. So what if lifestyle or environmental influences or even our emotional factors play a role in our genetic expression? And this is how the field of epigenetics started. So what is epigenetics really? If epigenetics have a tagline, it would be, "Your genes are not your destiny." So recall that nucleotide sequence of DNA codes that help us in the production of protein that are used for thousands of biological processes in our body. Let's call this the protein factory. So the process is actually more complicated than what I'm going to describe right now, but imagine that your DNA is on a conveyor belt, and that there is a scanner that reads the DNA sequence, interpreting the instructions for protein production. Now we're skipping the RNA in this video for simplification, but now let's imagine that there is a factory worker that sits on at the switchboard, and he is in charge of a lever that controls the speed of the conveyor belt, and a button that can switch the scanner on or off. Now our factory worker can speed the belt and produce protein faster, or turn down the belt, the speed, and make less. It can actually turn off the scanner completely, so it can skip certain genes and does not make certain proteins, so maybe the body does not need it and has too much of it, for example. Now this is a rough example, but this is essentially how our epigenetics affect the genetic expression and protein production. And that is what determines if a genetic risk is expressed, leading to a disease, or suppressed, making you not getting the disease. So it's like as if our lifestyles, environmental factors are the boss who instruct our protein factory worker how to operate the lever on the scanner. That's why we summarize this evolved understanding of genetics by saying our genes are not our destiny. So we now understand that our genes are not set in stone at birth. They are not determined. They do not determine our fate. Our lifestyle and environment are the boss that help to shape how our epigenetics, or the factory worker at the switchboard, express our health outcomes. So just as much as good lifestyle habits can reduce risk for a disease by turning off problematic genes, our poor decisions can increase our risk for a disease. Now, how epigenetics change our understanding of disease risk? You probably know now that how these revelations about the role of lifestyle and environment have completely changed the conversation about genetic risk for disease. Scientists who once thought that we have to literally change our genes to modify disease risk are now exploring how to use these epigenetic factors to improve the health outcome. Lifestyle factors like diet, sleep, meditation, and exercise are things that we have control over, and they have tremendous influence on our genetic expression. So limiting exposure to environmental toxins, also like food additives, pesticides, heavy metals, and plastics, and supporting the body's natural detoxification pathways is another aspect of how we can keep our genes at bay. Epigenetics actually can also play a role in expression of traits like personality, stress, resilience, or even likes or dislikes, like what kind of food you like or not like. It turns out experiences of past trauma can also be passed down generations as a result of epigenetics. So think of ancestors who survived famine, war, and torture. We now realize that their experiences can influence our genetic expression. There's even evidence that experiences during pregnancies can influence the baby's risk for disease later in life through epigenetics. Could this be part of the reason why certain populations are actually more prone to certain chronic diseases than others? Future research, a lot of scientists are looking into that, and future research may tell us more. Now, how does epigenetics impact kidney disease? The field of epigenetics is still young, and the publication exploring the relationship to kidney disease are even younger. However, there's an exciting and growing body of research exploring these ties. We now know, for example, that epigenetic risk factors can be passed through generations, and babies who had malnourished grandmothers can have decreased number of filtering units in their kidneys, which increases their risk for kidney disease down the road. But epigenetics impact on kidney disease does not stop here. From genes responsible for the excretion of heavy metals to genes responsible for vitamin D activation, breakdown, lifestyle and environmental and emotional factors can play a role in kidney health and complication of kidney disease. For more information, follow us on www.inkidney.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or sign up to our newsletter.